Hey everybody, it is the end of the first road trip, the day before the home opener, and the Giants are feeling good. You could see it coming out of Houston, and why wouldn't they? 5-1. That's the good news. Their best record to start a year since 2014. The bad news, this division, as we knew, is a monster. The Dodgers 8-0, the Padres 7-0. They look better than maybe people expected coming off a very weird offseason with some ownership stuff and not a lot of spending, but there's a lot of talent there. So a tough division, but right now the Giants are right there in the thick of it, and they feel very, very good about the road trip they just had, as they should. Sneaky tough trip. I mean, Cincinnati's not an easy place to play, especially when it's hot, as it was. They somehow escaped with no weather, no rain delays, which I don't think has ever happened before. And then Houston, always one of the better teams in the league. That's a deep lineup. Christian Walker is there now, so a tough task. They come away with a sweep there, 5-1. Some real standouts. Wilmer Flores obviously turned into Barry Bonds for the first week of the season. Just generally clean baseball. I mean, they haven't officially made an error, even though you could have given an error, and they initially did give an error to Casey Schmidt at first base. That later got changed. So clean baseball, 2.72 team ERA. They certainly feel good about that. Those were some things that stood out. I do want to hit on five things that I noticed over the course of the week. Things that maybe I didn't write about as much at NBC Sports Bay Area. Just some things we learned on a 5-1 trip. A very positive trip. And I want to start with something that, we write about every offseason. The Giants want to be more athletic. They want to run more. They're actually doing it this year. They've stolen six bases. They had a double steal in play on Wednesday. Ends up not being a double steal because Ramos put one in the gap, but they are being much more aggressive. I think even Yaz tagging up on a medium fly ball that shows you a little more aggression on the bases, an athletic slide from him to get in there safely. So that's part of this. The other part of this, they have had one attempt against them so far. Nobody has tried to steal on Patrick Bailey, which he's certainly thrilled about. I think it's going to be good for his shoulder over the course of the year, keep him fresh. Last year, these guys gave up 146 stolen bases, which is insane when you have Patrick Bailey, but their pitchers just weren't holding guys and they were making it difficult on him. Credit to Gold Glove voters to not look at that. They looked at the framing and everything else and realized he was the best in the league. But it was tough for him. You go back to 2021, the last time the Giants stole more bases than they allowed, but that really should not be the case with Bailey back there. And Jung-Hoo Lee, Tyler Fitzgerald, Chapman's faster than you would think. Adames has stolen some bases in his career. Just overall, a team that should run more, and they did that on the first trip. Six steals for them, one on the other side. The only team in baseball. As I mentioned, no one's even running. Only team that has fewer than three attempts against them. So that certainly stood out. And Bailey wanted to give a tip of the cap to Logan Webb, who's his times to the plate are down quite a bit. He's made some mechanical changes down to about 1.3 from he was in the 1.5 range last year. So that has helped him. And Webb was pretty excited about that too. He said, "No one's stolen a base on me so far through two starts." So that's something he's not used to. Speaking of Patrick Bailey, my second thing here, the second inning on Monday night, Jordan Hicks, that was as good as it gets with the fastballs. That was as good as it gets also from a framing perspective. I'm sure you saw it. If you haven't seen the stills, I tweeted it. I put it on my Instagram page. Shows you that Hicks was painting, but also shows you that Bailey is maybe even better as a framer than he was last year when he was the best in baseball. Little reminder, no Giants catcher has ever won two Gold Glove awards. That includes Buster Posey, who has one. Bailey was the heavy favorite coming into the year, and if he stays healthy, there's no reason why this won't be a string of them. I think he's taken, if it's possible, even another step. And it was funny to see on the trip a couple times relievers looked in and kind of went, What was that? What was that call?" The umpire was correct. It's just Bailey's so good at framing now that he's fooling his own pitchers. That's kind of a fun thing to watch during games. Speaking of those relievers, that is my third thing here. 1.74 ERA on the trip, 13 hits in 20 and two-thirds innings. We thought it would be a good bullpen. So far, it's been really good. It's really deep. The fact that Sean Jelly, Tristan Beck are down in AAA, Keaton Wynn, all those starters, none of them could break camp with the team except for Birdsong. So a deep bullpen. Randy Rodriguez needs to be talked about more. I mean, if that's your fourth reliever, your fourth right-handed reliever, that's pretty good. He's dominant, and I think there's other teams where he'd be pitching like the eighth inning right now, and you might be talking about him as a future closer. And here it's like, hey, get us out of a jam in the sixth. So that that is a huge positive early on. Tyler Rogers doing what he does, appeared in 4 of 6 games. He's going to be a weapon for him against lefties as well, which they need because they only have one left-handed reliever, Eric Miller, who again just kind of wipes out the best lefties in the game. He did it to Jordan in the Astros series. That was really impressive. And then I think that the biggest thing for the bullpen is Camilo Doval looks like Camilo Doval again. He has 2 saves. They needed some help. Ryan Walker's back flared up, and then he pitched 2 straight games. So a couple opportunities for Camilo. They were clean, drama free, no torture. He has 2 saves. Walker has 2 saves. So Giants felt this could be the best back end um, in the major leagues potentially, just bullpen wise. And right now it looks like it has the potential to do that. So it looks like it will be that potentially. So they're very excited about that. Speaking of guys who are excitable and make fans excited, he is just excitable in general. Elliot Ramos, 3 home runs. I don't think anybody has more fun rounding the bases right now than Elliot. I don't know if anyone's having more fun in general, although Willy Adames would give him a run for that. He comes home with an OPS of 1,000, an even thousand, 3 homers, 3 doubles, 7 runs driven in on the trip. He tied Felipe Alou's franchise record, 6 straight games to start a season with an extra base hit. Um, just looks like he's kind of taken a leap. And I think the one thing I was thinking about the whole trip is like, where's this all going for him? He looks like someone who's going to hit 30 homers. Is it more than that? Does the Giants go straight past the 30 homer drought, straight to 40? You know, he's going to be an all-star again if he keeps doing this. Is it more than that? Is he getting into like kind of the back end? Otani's on his own planet, but back end of MVP ballots, is he taking that leap? So I think that's one thing that stood out. And defensively, you put a guy who has been a center fielder in the past and played a lot of right field. You put him in left field, especially somewhere like Houston, where there's not a lot of ground to cover out there, and he's looked really good, and that's made this a very good defensive outfield. And my final thing, there were a lot of positives on this trip. One thing to monitor here, there were some negatives. Lamont Wade Jr. had a rough first week until that pinch hit homer. One thing to monitor, I think, is just figuring out the bench, figuring out what to do with some of these younger players. They wanted to reward everyone coming into the year and reward everyone who deserved to be in Cincinnati and had a good camp and deserved to do the whole opening day thing and experience that. And I think Hayden Birdsong was at the top of that list, but it was hard to find time for him. And they're confident that they can keep him stretched out, but they're starting to, it's getting a little tricky. They had him throw a bullpen session. They had him set to follow Jordan Hicks on Monday, and then Jordan Hicks throws 6 innings and like 70 something pitches. Doesn't need the help. They go straight to the bullpen. So Birdsong ends up coming in on Wednesday, throws 2 innings, 26 pitches. It's just not a lot of work. And then you get the off day, you go back home, you have Verlander, you have Ray, Hicks, Webb. It's just hard to like look ahead and see where he gets his 4 or 5 innings, where he gets his 60 pitches and stays stretched out. So that's one thing they are monitoring internally, trying to keep him up to speed because he is a starter. He's going to start a lot of games for them this year. That's something to watch going forward. And then the bench, it was always a little weird. I mean, they break camp with a backup catcher and Sam Huff, Luis Matos, the fourth outfielder, and then you have 2 right-handed hitting guys who do a lot of work on the middle of the infield, and Casey Schmidt and Christian Koss. Christian Koss gets 1 appearance on the trip. I don't think that's as big of a deal. He's an older prospect. He's a good fit on the bench. He's a good base runner. Sprint speeds in Houston, that one start were pretty good, like pretty close to 30 feet per second, which is elite. So that he's going to see a lot of time. The Schmidt one's where they're trying to figure that out, and we saw him at first base on Wednesday. No reason why he can't be good over there, given his hands, given his instincts at third base, but it is just a little weird. And without Encarnacion, who is the fit there as the DH first base corner outfield guy, it's just kind of a weird fit on the roster right now. We'll see where they go with that and whether they ultimately feel like this is what they want to do. But right now, they want Wilmer to be the DH. Obviously, he's crushing and he is comfortable in that role. It's a tough role for young hitters, but I think that is something to watch on this homestand is what kind of time there is for the bench guys. Are there innings for Hayden Birdsong? And they go back out on the road a week from now, and it's a long trip, a 3-city trip. They're going to the East Coast, so it's not going to be as easy to get guys out there. So it'll be interesting to see what the roster looks like a week from now and whether they decide that this isn't maybe the perfect fit after one week. But first week, They feel good about it. All these guys got rewarded. They come home 5-1. It was a very happy flight. So all is good right now as they head for their home opener.